In an age of sleight of hand financial affairs, where at any moment we are left penniless, we often wonder how could practically every American become so destitute. If we retrace history to the height of the Great Depression, back in 1933, this is when a pivotal piece of legislation, in the form of an executive order by President Franklin Roosevelt, started what is known today as the straw man conspiracy. Questions have to be asked as to what exactly is a straw man and how it is used to manipulate the financial world as we know it today. First, we have to understand the terminology. A straw man is a common type of argument and is an informal fallacy based on the misrepresentation of an opponent's argument. To be a successful straw man requires that we are ignorant or uninformed of the original argument. To have a straw man argument requires creating the illusion of having completely refuted an opponent's proposition by covertly replacing it with a different proposition. Using this premise in the financial world requires that an artificial person be created. Not many even realize that ever since the 1930s, every person born in the US and in Great Britain has a duplicate identity, like an illusionary and imaginary twin. One might wonder just how far and deep the financial deception that is upon us really goes. To understand this further, your straw man is an artificial person created by law at the time of your birth. The inscription of an all capital letters name on your birth certificate, which is a document of title and a negotiable instrument, means your lawful Christian name of birthright was replaced with a legal corporate name of deceit and fraud. Your name in upper and lower case letters, say John Smith, has been answering when the legal person, your name in all capital letters John Smith, is addressed, and therefore the two have been recognized as being one and the same. When you John Smith, the lawful being, distinguish yourself as another party than the legal person, the two will be separated. Legally, since your birth, your artificial person has been considered a slave or indentured servant to the various federal, provincial and municipal governments via your state-issued, state-created birth certificate in the name of your all-caps person. Your birth certificate was issued so that the issuer could claim exclusive title to the legal person created. This was further compounded when you voluntarily obtained a driver's license and a social security number. The state even owns your personal and private life through your state-issued marriage license, issued in the all-caps names. You have had no rights in birth, marriage, nor will you have them even in death unless you recapture your straw man. Believe it or not, the names on tombstones in cemeteries are all capitalized. The state holds the title to your legal person it created via your birth certificate until John Smith, the rightful owner, the holder in due course of the instrument, that is yourself, reclaims or redeems it. Now that we know what a straw man is and how it is used today, we have to go back to the 1930s to understand how this whole deception of our identity was created in the first place. On April 5, 1933, then President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, under executive order issued April 5, 1933, declared that all persons are required to deliver on or before May 1, 1933, all gold coin, gold bullion, ampersand gold certificates owned by them to Federal Reserve Bank, branch or agency, or to any member bank of the Federal Reserve System. James A. Farley, Postmaster General at that time, required each postmaster in the country to post a copy of the executive order in a conspicuous place within each branch of the post office to ensure compliance. It virtually threatened the public with imprisonment or a hefty fine if they didn't comply with this mandate that the president issued. It should be noted, executive orders and proclamations of a president normally have no direct effect upon private persons or their property. The exception is those cases in which the president is expressly authorized or required by laws enacted by Congress to issue an executive order dealing with the legal rights or obligations of the public. The issuance of the Selective Service, the establishment of boards to investigate certain labor disputes, and the establishment of quotas or fees with respect to certain imports are all examples of legal issuance of executive orders involving the Public. The discretionary powers of the president became more evident back in 1933, even though FDR was not expressly authorized to issue that executive order demanding the public to relinquish their privately held gold. 2 months after this executive order was issued, the Senate and the House approved a joint resolution to suspend the gold standard. This move was designed to increase the money supply in order to boost the economy. This joint resolution assured uniform value to the currency of the United States. Joint Resolution HJR 192 was the key legislation that led to the onset of what is really not common knowledge today, the straw man account. Or in any amount of money of the United States measured thereby is declared to be against public policy, and no provision shall be contained in or made with respect to any obligation hereafter incurred. Every obligation henceforth or hereafter incurred whether or not any such provisions is contained. Expecting currency is payable in money of the United States, including Federal Reserve notes and circulating notes of the Federal Reserve banks and all our other national banks. What HJR 192 did was it superseded public law. What passes as law today is only color of law, replacing it with public policy. This in itself eliminated our ability to pay our debts, only allowing for their discharge. When we use any commercial paper, like checks, drafts, warrants, Federal Reserve notes, etc., and accept it as money, we simply pass the unpaid debt attached to the paper on to others, by way of our purchases and transactions. This unpaid debt, under public policy, now carries a public liability for its collection. What we have now is all debt is public. Thus government, in order to provide necessary goods and services, created a commercial bond, the promissory note, by pledging the property, labor, life and body of its citizens as payment for the debt. This commercial bond now made a slave practically out of every man, woman and child, and thus we became nothing more than human resources and collateral for the debt. How this was done was really the work of Congress back in 1933 without our knowledge or consent. This was done through the filing of our birth certificates. The United States government, our duly elected and appointed administrators of government, took and still do today certified copies of all our birth certificates and place them in the Department of Commerce as registered securities. It is these securities, where each one carries an estimated value of $1 million, have been and still are circulated around the world as collateral for loans, entries on the asset side of ledgers, just like any other security. There is just one small problem: we the people didn't authorize this. When we look deeper into our federal government, the United States is a District of Columbia corporation. Our own government is a foreign corporation with respect to state. Here is where we find the straw man. Since a corporation is a fictitious person, it cannot function by itself in the real world. It needs a conduit, a transmitting utility, a liaison of some sort, to connect the fictional person and fictional world in which it exists to the real world. This is all substantiated in Volume 20. Corpus Juris Sec 1785 and in NY Merriam 36 NE 505 1441 SO 1973 14 L 287. This is pretty hard to fathom, but what we can see is that in order for all this to work with both a fictitious person and the real you, there must be a connection between them. This is done by a contract, where both agree to the terms of a contract. How this is done is through government-created shadows, a fictional man with the same name as the real you. The fictional you was created at the issuance of your birth certificate, when they print your name in all capital letters or placing last name first. Now we have a government that has created fictitious persons, created by the real you being born using our birth certificates. In essence, the government created a shadow, a straw man with the same name as the real you. A person set up to serve as a cover for a usually questionable transaction. A nation of straw men has put this nation's financial markets at the center of controversy, where it basically is a house of cards that at any time could and most probably crash down. The straw man can be summed up as an imaginary, passive stand-in for the real participant, a phone, a blind, a person, regarded as a non-entity. The straw man is a shadow, a go-between. For quite some time, a rather large number of people in this country have not known that a man or woman's name, written in all caps, or last name first, does not identify real, living people. Taking this one step further, the rules of grammar for the English language have no provisions for the abbreviation of people's names, i.e. initials are not to be used. As an example, John Adam Smith is correct. Anything else is not correct. Not Smith, John Adam or Smith, John A or J Smith, or J A Smith, or John Adam Smith, or Smith, John or any other variation. Nothing other than John Adam Smith identifies the real, living man. All other appellations identify either a deceased man or a fictitious man, such as a corporation or a straw man.